What's up, everyone? This is David Greenspan, and you are listening to Season 2 of the Mindshare Podcast, a proud member of the Industry Syndicate Media Network. Additional podcasts are available at mindshare101.com and on all the major podcast platforms. This week's episode is sponsored by Kits Keep in Touch Systems. This is episode 69. No stranger to tough competition, he is the host of CTV's The Amazing Race Canada. Before this, he became one of Canada's most recognized Olympic athletes when he won the Olympic gold in men's skeleton at the Vancouver 2010 Games, and then proceeded to make his mark in Canadian folklore as he did his victory walk through the Whistler Village with a nice, cold pitcher of beer in hand. He has hosted the Juno Awards and has appeared on Oprah. And his presentations unify the nature of what makes Canada great as a nation, with the power of individual self-efficacy and the unwavering belief that you will accomplish that which you seek. On this episode of the Mindshare Podcast, I am very honored to be joined by Olympic gold medalist and host of The Amazing Race Canada, Mr. John Montgomery. Monty, welcome to the show, my man.
Thank you for having me.
Buddy, I don't think anybody will forget that moment when you won gold and then proceeded to do that infamous victory walk. I mean, what a sweet moment and just oh so Canadian. Now, you've hosted the Junos, you've been on Oprah, and as I've mentioned, you are the host of The Amazing Race Canada, but I know, and you don't have to say it, so we'll just leave it as that, but this has got to be by far the coolest show you've ever been on.
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
Now, jokes aside, you do know about my brand, Mindshare 101. I know time to time you even rock the hat, and I thank
Always.
you for that, brother. The whole idea around Mindshare is a top-of-mind, intuitive, instinctive reactions that when somebody thinks of what someone does, what you do, and our audience being realtors and mortgage brokers, salespeople, entrepreneurs, small businesses, that they think of you first, which is ultimately giving everyone a better chance to win over their competition. Now, you're an Olympic gold medal winner, and there's no way in the world, and I say very literally, like in the world, there's no way in the world that came easy. And in 2010, you became the best in the world in the sport of skeleton. In other words, flying down an icy slide head first at ridiculous speeds. So I got to ask you, like, how fast were you actually going in those races? And what could have possibly led you to want to get into skeleton racing?
Well, we were doing at the games in 2010, the fastest that anybody has ever achieved on a skeleton sled that we know of, 146.1 kilometers per hour. That was, two guys went that fast. I was not one of them. I did 145.9. And the other two fellas, Alex Trechikov from Russia, he got bronze in the race, and Ben Sanford from New Zealand, the tallest, heaviest man in the competition. he didn't place, but they beat me on speed, but they didn't beat my downtime, which is why I got to bring home the gold biscuit. And no, David, it wasn't easy, but you said earlier how to win over your competition. And I think that when we do have success, it's because of competition. And in the absence of, we'll never know what our true strengths are. We'll never realize what we need to improve upon. And without competition, you've got no measuring stick by which to gauge your process. And in the absence of, in the vacuum of competition, I think we're pretty stagnant in terms of our own personal growth and development.
Yeah, that's and there's the exact thing, right? Is like, how do we get better if we are not having those sort of barriers out there that are kind of going, look, here's your measuring stick, here's what you got to do to be better. And I will say, and I mean, sort of further to the conversation we were having before we went on air here around the whole sort of moment in time that we're in life right now. Yep. One of the things we're seeing on the news is that they're talking a lot about, and they're giving us the counts of, how many people are catching this thing and how many people are, suffering from it worse or getting better from it. And I think that those numbers are what gives us all some realistic view into how serious this is, and or maybe how many people are actually surviving through it. But it is, again, back to this convo, it's that idea around having those numbers and that point of like, what is it that I have to do to get better, right? Having that measuring stick, which is kind of where I go into this one of when you got in, did you actually have a goal to win Olympic gold or any goals for that matter? I mean, how important, and I would say in the same light, right? How important is it to set those goals to achieve what we ultimately want in life? And then what would you suggest that someone does to stay focused on their goals and their dreams?
Well, goal setting is the beginning and basis for all of it. Having a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal, gives an individual a sense of direction, a sense of purpose, and maybe a heading. Don't have to have an exact heading, but perhaps a general direction. Do you want to be in the Olympics? Okay. There are a million ways to skin that cat, and perhaps that's a terrible euphemism, but there are multiple ways to get things done. There is no one and only path for individuals. And so having a goal or a direction or an idea sort of begins the process of marinating and thinking about and processing and looking at options, looking at opportunities, really, as an opportunistic individual. And I think that that might be for a guy that doesn't read well or is not incredibly bright and only has a modicum of athleticism. What I do well, what I what I do what I am, and which I'm proud of, is curious, and I enjoy setting goals for myself. And those two things coupled together, curiosity and a desire to achieve a goal, is, and maybe being a bit opportunistic, are where my strengths lie. And that's it. And that's allowed me to find things like auctioneering and being in the automobile industry, wanting to sell a car a minute, and watching an auctioneer do his thing, thinking, okay, I would like to do that. And then seeing is believing. I knew I wanted to be in the car game, and then getting into it allowed me to find out little areas where I would be able to, I guess, achieve a level of personal satisfaction that would allow me to be passionate, to continue to grow. And with that, with the passion, with the curiosity, you'll seek out opportunities. You'll seek out niches. You'll seek out, maybe it's not even a niche. Maybe it is the main vein, the core level of what everybody's going towards. Maybe it's just finance, and maybe it's just real estate. But within that broad spectrum, you'll find areas that are tailor suited to your unique individual skill sets. And I think a couple of those elements, honing your curiosity and setting goals for yourself, that will begin to shape your life, provide direction, and allow you to immerse yourself in something that you can be passionate about, because the passion will see you through the low points. And without that, it's going to be from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. And you're not going to have the heart capacity or resolve to be able to weather the storm.
And is it one of, I mean, it's obviously one of those things, and I love what you said there around the curiosity and having the passion to sort of weather even the low points, right? Because I think that that's the biggest thing, is we all expect that we're going to have these goals, we're going to set these goals, and we're just going to achieve these goals. And I think there's something around maybe just the mental, emotional, human nature about who we are and how we're programmed that says, yeah, if I want this, I'm going to get this. And I mean, that's a good thing to think. That's a good thing to believe in the way we operate out there every day, having an MO that way. That being said, it's not actually very realistic to think that we're going to achieve everything we set out for. And there's going to be a lot of low points around that. So it's almost like finding something that you are passionate about doing, something that you do ultimately want to achieve. Prepare yourself for the fact that, you know, you are going to have those times that, or a lot more times probably, that it's not going to work out for you than it will. But being able to weather that storm is the key. And then to that, it's like you say, auctioneering. And I mean, I've heard you go off on that stuff live. I mean,
yeah, just a skill, man. You could learn it, David. You'll be an auctioneer before the end of this program.
Okay. So here's the thing then. Okay. So now that takes practice.
Yep.
Right. How often do you get out there and you practice, whether it's auctioneering, whether it was skeleton, whether it was, you know, any of the things that you do? And I mean, how much losing comes with all of that stuff?
Tons of losing. I think you'll lose 8 times out of 10. The 8 times out of 10 provide you direction. They provide you with learning opportunities, and you only need to be successful that one time, the day that you deemed matter most. Every other time up till that point, a failure is as good as a success, because from failure, you're hopefully going to take away a lesson, something that you can apply to the next attempt. And in terms of the auctioneering and skeleton racing, you can practice as often as you like. Auctioneering, you can sell fence posts as you drive down the highway. I mean, remember where you're going, because getting lost for selling fence posts is never worth it. But you can skeleton race in your mind's eye. I mean, I did that Whistler track a million times visually and visualizing it. And that is where you're going to realize the development. If you can visualize something, if you can put yourself into a position where your body is feeling the pressure to perform, your body is feeling like it's actually standing on the start line, and you can not for the very first time at the Olympics be experiencing that pressure, that feeling, you can be more comfortable with it. Trying to pretend like it doesn't matter or it's not happening to you is an exercise in futility, whether you're feeling nervousness about asking for a referral, nervousness about asking, can we do this deal right now? Nervousness about doing anything. Expecting you to not be nervous is foolhardy. But getting comfortable with the feeling, that's something that we can all achieve. And all you need to do is visualize it. Put yourself in that position. Say it out loud to yourself in the mirror. Practice it, practice it, practice it. And the feeling will subside, but it won't necessarily go away, but you'll be familiar with it. It'll be an old friend. That unsettled butterfly feelings, the slightly sweaty palm, that's an area that is maybe something people should seek out. Getting themselves there means that you care. Getting themselves there in a moment where you're just by yourself before you maybe go on stage to speak or get out of your car to go and do a face-to-face interaction, or before you turn on your computer screen to do a Zoom media event, because we're never allowed to get into the same room with human beings anymore from today forward. Maybe these types of things. Yeah, right. You can get comfortable with that feeling, and it'll be familiar, and it'll be something that you welcome. Getting on stage before I go and present, I do have nervous energy. I do have nervous anticipation. And that means that I care. That means that I'm invested in that moment. And I know, because it's happened to me a million times, that as soon as I start flapping my lips, it evaporates. It's like vapor into the night air. You don't feel that nervous trepidation anymore. But the energy that you do have is coming through you. People can feel it. They feel connected to you because you're there telling a story that you're passionate about. So it might as well be something that I tune into. And that energy is transferred from nervous energy to excitement to, palpable storytelling that causes an emotional response in individuals. And I'm only talking about things that I'm familiar with and related to, but, do some word change there and make it relevant to your life.
No, I love that. The sweaty palms and the butterflies. I mean, as you mentioned, even getting on stage, which, as you're familiar with, I do a lot of that as well. Yeah. And I know I've asked, I think I even asked you when we first met, and I've asked some other folks that do this very regularly as a full-time job. Do you ever get nervous before you walk on that stage? And again, that stage, let's take that and say that could be the stage you're speaking on, that could be the stage you're competing on, that could be the Zoom meeting, that could be the listing you're walking into. Do you ever get nervous before that? And somebody had said to me one time, and this guy has been doing this for a long time and has built a serious living out of it. And he said, if you don't get nervous, you don't care enough.
Yep.
And I went, oh, thank you for that, because it was one of those where you go, why? I'm doing this so often. Why are there still nerves coming out?
Because you care.
And that's what it comes down to.
Yep.
So
the absence of that fear and trepidation is what you need to really be worried about, because it means that you no longer give two hoots. And that's when you need to pack it in, when you stop caring.
There's the complacency that some people find in their worlds, their business, personal lives, when there is no longer that passion that's being exuded. It's like you're just now. I mean, I want to say you're just living, but are you really just living, or are you just kind of passing time?
You're just existing,
right?
Yeah.
Competition, like watching the competition, looking at what other people do. I think in today's world with being in business, being in sports, anything, there's always going to be that next sort of measuring stick of what are they doing. And then even more so with these things as our phones and the social medias that are out there, and the influx, especially being today where we're no longer allowed to go out and see people and we've got to talk to people through screens and everything else. you know, we're looking at what others do on a daily, minute by minute basis now.
Yep.
And it's so easy to get yourself into a rut when you're seeing somebody else's successes, when you are not feeling the successes for yourself. It is very easy to fall into that spot. So for you, have you, as you were doing all this stuff, and I know that you said, like, even the speeds that you guys were going down, which still blows my mind, like 145 kilometers or miles?
Kilometers per hour, yeah.
Either one, like, that's ridiculously quick. I mean, if anybody wants to put that in perspective, think about flying down the highway at 145 kilometers an hour in Canada. You are not allowed to do that. That is too
Get your
fast.
car taken away.
You get your cars taken away, and here you guys are going head first down this slide. But to get faster, to want to win that, you do need to see who you're up against. And so having your eyes on the competition, like, talk to me about this, like persistence, perseverance. How do you stay focused on your goals and what you are trying to achieve, no matter what outside factors are present? And then again, keeping in mind, sort of, our audience is a lot of business people. They're entrepreneurs. I mean, I'm watching the comments right now. People are loving the advice and the feedback you provided to them right now. Because well, it goes without saying, for the achievements you've had, which are absolutely incredible. It's that thing to for others to kind of look on and go, okay, an Olympic gold medalist. Like, I mean, that's worldwide stuff. That's not just in our province or our city, in our town, or our community hockey league anymore. How do you stay focused on that, the persistence, the perseverance through all of that, when you've got all these competitors out there that are possibly winning more medals or getting more deals or signing more, whatever, making more money, whatever?
I think it's important, first of all, to compartmentalize, to know that what you're seeing isn't the totality of a situation when you're looking at Instagram and Facebook, or you're standing there admiring and respecting and revering somebody that's standing on top of the podium, or, taking home that big check at the end of the month as a result of performances that were had during that month. But if you're able to compartmentalize and look to those types of individuals and say to yourself, as I did when I was 10 years old and Theron Fleury came home to Russell, Manitoba with the Stanley Cup in tow, looking at a guy like that and knowing in that moment when I shook his hand and he's standing next to my 5'6" father, who is the exact same in build as Theo, that big things can happen to small people from small towns. That changed the way that I looked at the world in which I lived. Theron was the shining light of the smallest guy ever to play in the NHL was from Russell, Manitoba, a town of 1,600 people. Now, not everybody has Theo Fleury to set that tone for their entire life from that day forward, being that big things could happen to small people from small towns. And if I want something, I just need to go out there and earn it the way that Theron had earned his opportunity in the NHL. It wasn't given to him because of who his father was or because of socioeconomic conditions. If anything, he had overcome those barriers to find himself in that position, having that opportunity. And he sustained unimaginable hardships to get there. Things that you and I hopefully will never be able to appreciate, understand, or have the capacity to do so. I mean, the abuse that he suffered and coming through the other end of it. I'm more proud of Theo today for overcoming that stuff and doing what he's doing and spreading the good word about trauma and healing and moving forward than I ever was for his athletic aspirations. But having that as a beacon by which to frame opportunity in my life, things weren't just for the people from the city or the excited states of the Americas any longer. Theron had proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that big things could happen to small people from small towns. And if you can compartmentalize that, thinking that, well, I don't know what he did to get there, but I know that it's possible. Why isn't it happening to me? I'm from Russell too. I'm really, really smallest kid in my class. Why am I not getting the opportunity to play in the NHL? It's because of a number of factors. One, and primarily being, I didn't work nearly as hard as Theo did to achieve that. And I didn't maybe have the same heart and belief or hope that Theo did. And in terms of skeleton racing, looking at the athletes that you want to be like, recognizing that they've realized this level of performance in the exact field that I want to be successful in. Being there in 2006 was a why not me moment. So it started with Theo in 1989. And in 2006, I was having another why not me moment as skeleton athletes, and then got to know as teammates, watch them win a bronze medal, a silver medal, and a gold medal at the 2006 Winter Olympic Games in Torino, Italy, I began to say, why not me? Why not me? In 2010, somebody is going to be awarded the men's gold medal in skeleton racing in Vancouver and Whistler. Why not me? Why not me? And not out in the sense of entitlement that something is owed to me, or rather that I'm deserving of something, but more the realization that if somebody's going to win it, why can't it be me? And that just sort of left the door open to any sort of preconceived notions that I had that my friends and fellow athletes, people that I knew, very well, achieved success playing field. And I said to myself, why not me? It is achievable, and it is something that if they can do it, I can do it too. But in that same breath, compartmentalizing it, saying that it's not just going to happen because I want it to. And I don't know what these people went through to achieve this. I have to have the expectation that it is going to be a great road to hoe. But if I want it and I deem it important in my life, I have to ask myself, how important? What do I want to give up to have this success? And there's an opportunity cost for everything. And you just have to be willing to pay that price within the realm of sanity and within the law and following the rules.
Within the law. Yeah, there's an important point.
Yeah, you can always cheat your way to the top, and that will be an empty, hollow, sad victory, I'm sure.
Well, I would say that, and I don't know what everybody else's beliefs are on this, but in my own personal beliefs, I do believe in the idea of karma. I do believe that the universe operates in incredibly incredible ways. I mean, I will bring this back to where we sit right now and say, and I brought this up the other day on my live. So for anybody that was paying attention, but it was that idea around, what had happened with the NBA player who had played the Raptors that night, and then at his press conference went and joked around without knowing what he was suffering and touched all the microphones.
Yep.
Lo and behold, the next day, he is the one who contracted the virus, and he is the reason that the NBA decided to shut the NBA down, which meant the NHL shut down, which meant Hockey Canada and the schools and everybody else shut down. And that was the domino that fell. And here's the guy the night before, 24 hours removed, who's touching all the microphones and joking around about how serious or non-serious this entire thing is. So yeah, definitely doing stuff within the confines of the law and doing it properly and not cheating your way to it, being very dead serious about what you want to achieve and doing it the right way is always going to be the more satisfying win. But much the same as you mentioned, there's that idea around, what is it that you are doing to get yourself there? What are you willing to give up to get yourself there? And not focusing, keeping an eye on the competition, keeping an eye on what everybody out there is doing, knowing what your barriers are, knowing what those numbers, those hurdles you gotta beat are. Like you said in 2206, what do I have to do between now and 2010? Why not me? Right. So it's putting your head down and really doing the work to get the achievement you're looking for.
It was a possibility in 2006. It wasn't a foregone conclusion. It was just a possibility. And I held on to that. I clung to that possibility, that hope, that idea, while diligently doing everything within my power to get there, measuring things as to if this was my goal. By my doing this, am I getting closer to my goal or am I getting further away from it? And sometimes I would just say, well, screw it. I'm having that beer anyway. I don't care if it's taking me further away. But if it was something like going skiing or snowboarding in that time, something that I really enjoyed doing, something that brought me a great deal of joy, the threat of injury was at that point in my life so, I guess, almost terrifying that I would set myself back from doing something that was just for simple casual enjoyment that would potentially take away from that which I was working diligently towards. And I viewed it as too much of a risk. And so I didn't snowboard for probably 7 or 8 years while I was in skeleton racing because of the threat of injury.
Not that like skeleton racing didn't bring a serious threat of injury in any way, 145 kilometers an hour.
Yeah, exactly.
Unbelievable. But so is this trying to emulate then the competition that's out there, looking at, we can talk about choosing a mentor, talk about choosing a teammate that might have achieved, somebody that maybe been in the business a lot longer, the sport a lot longer, somebody that has been through some of the trials and tribulations. Is this would you say try to emulate, try to learn from? Would you say kind of don't pay too much attention to what you're seeing, because it could be bright, shiny objects. It could be just, you know, uh, again, how you said compartmental, like the idea around people kind of seeing something that maybe isn't really what it is.
I'd say, revel in the bright, shiny, fancy object like the raven. Whatever it might be that is making you happy and joyful, or wanting of that, revel in it. But then ask yourself some questions, and you must do critical thinking. Just haphazardly sort of wanting and lusting after things without asking any critical questions of, really, was that what I'm seeking? Is that really what I want? Is that the means to the end that I am looking for? That's perhaps the mistake. But there is something to be learned from absolutely everybody, both in what you want to, I guess, add to your quiver of tools, and what you can use as a glaring, obvious red flag for what not to do. Watching and being curious, I guess, are amazing tools to be harnessed to figure out your path. And it doesn't mean that everybody's path is going to look the same, or something that somebody is doing that they're doing well is going to be what you need to leverage. But if you ask yourself some critical questions, and you look at these individuals as shining examples of how I can possibly glean whatever it is that is important for me to glean from this situation, from this observance, and make it a part of my own, nothing in life is original anymore. It's all rehashed, regurgitated, rethought things that we've seen other people do, say, think. There are very few original ideas. And if you can, hold on to that, and not thinking that you need to be an original, but just to make what you do original, then that'll be the exercise.
Being authentically you. I know, I like that
Yeah.
point. So, coaching, like when did you start getting coached? And then, I guess, when did you start getting coached? How did your coach help you? And very importantly, once you won that gold medal, was it like, oh, the best in the world, I don't need a coach anymore? What's that mentality around, because we all believe that having the skill set we've got, or let's say being authentically us, we know what we're doing in certain ways. Maybe we think we're doing it exactly the way we should be doing it. I know, again, never mind just a sales coach, but as a hockey coach and a baseball coach, and somebody who's grown up playing competitive sports and having coaches, I know the impact that these people left on me.
Yep.
And so I'm now trying to reciprocate for the young guys out there and the young girls out there that are playing, competitive sports sort of at younger ages, and now give back to those kids and teach them much the same way I try to do with my clients. But I'm wondering, again, gold medal, best in the world. When did you start coaching? How did they help you? And then, did you still need that coach after the fact?
Well, I've had coach my entire life. My mom and dad, but my dad primarily is a school teacher and a coach. He has coached everything from track and field to football to hockey to baseball to you name it. He was the coach of it at school, except for basketball. 5'6" teacher that had no time or interest in the game of basketball. I don't think ever attended a basketball game at Major Pratt Collegiate. But beyond that, I've had the influence of a coach my entire life in my household, and he is a teacher, and teachers are coaches. And so that mindset that that permeated every conversation that was ever had around our dinner table. My mom was a business person. She got into real estate, I think, maybe the day after I was born, because she'd spent the 70s raising children and wanted desperately in 79 to have nothing more to do with me, perhaps.
Trust me, but my dad was in real estate for 20 years of my life. I remember I grew up in that house. I was like, Dad?
And small town living. I mean, she traded the same 230 or 250 houses repeatedly. By the time she was finished her career, the house that she'd traded the most was one that she'd traded 5 times. Wow. In that 35-year career. So it was, it's not big leagues real estate, but it is great for small towns and families that want to earn a good second income in small towns. But the coaching atmosphere was palpable and pervasive in just about everything that we did. From my two older siblings who are 9 years and 5 years older than me, my sisters. I was at their volleyball practices learning to serve as a youngster overhand when I was 5, to, going to the rink for hockey and refereeing and everything. So having a full-time coach in my house allowed me to maybe have conversations that other kids weren't privy to about challenges, about beliefs, about goal setting, about digging deep, about winning and losing. And it is something that I treasure in my life. I think in terms of being well-rounded in terms of my views on sport and how they powerfully shape individuals today. I want to be able to be maybe not the coach on the team, but give kids a chance to experience the power of having a coach in their life. And while I'm not coaching my kids yet, I will be there as a coach, perhaps on the sidelines, perhaps behind the bench. But having a coach in your life is one of the defining factors. It's a make or break type situation. The kid that has had a positive coach influence in their life has a much higher chance of success in life generally than the kid who has never experienced the power of team and the power of being coached well. And to that same extent, the power of a poor coach is equal to the detrimental side of things. And a bad coach, maybe more so than a good coach, can absolutely destroy an individual, their sense of self, their ability to believe, their ability to trust in another person of power and another person in a position of influence. That will destroy a human being and chances for success. So a good coach can be powerfully influential. A bad coach can be even more detrimental to an individual's life. And I got to give my mom and dad credit, and my dad being the quintessential coach, but my mom just as much so, because they fed off of each other. They maybe didn't consciously talk about attitude and the words that they chose to speak, but they were kindred spirits. They, I guess, mind melded, and the types of things that my mom would talk about in business coaching paralleled that which my dad always taught. And they're incredibly insightful. And they don't talk about life the same way that my wife and I talk about life, in terms of the insights that we've gleaned from social media, from memes, from doing a little bit more work in psychological performance, from counseling, the types of things that we'd talk to our sports psychiatrists about, verbalizing some of the things that my parents must have just had to beta test with and were the beneficiaries of just through, I don't know, maybe
just talking to people or like
not even talking about it. My parents
real life experiences,
real life experiences, and the power of beta testing, or knowing in your heart of heart, speaking from your heart, possibly more than anything. They didn't have language to talk about some of these concepts that we just take for granted today. And there were no Mindshare 101s. There wasn't podcast after podcast. There was one blinking parenting book that they all had. I forget the name of the doctor, but somebody knows out there on here. I'm sure they'll text in soon. There was one parenting book. And so I think they just had to talk from the heart. And luckily, their heads were in the right place because their heart was pure.
And so, I mean, when somebody achieves that level that they've been ultimately seeking, that they've gone through all those hardships and tripped over themselves and learned and just gone through it all, is there still a place to have a coach in that spot? Can we still get better after that? Or is it like, tap yourself on the back, look yourself in the mirror and tell yourself you are the man, and go find something else to do, because hell, there's other things to achieve? Like what's sort of the mindset? And again, I asked this just as a gold medalist. Massive, man. That's the world.
I'd say that the gold medalist is tougher to coach than the non-gold medalist, because they have that preconceived notion that, well, I made it to the top of this. I no longer have anything to learn.
But do
But
they
they
still?
may
Do they
need
still?
coaching more than the guy that hasn't made it yet. They might need the attitude adjustment. They might need the kick in the ass. They might need the perspective that has been lost through success. And I'd say that the gold medalist needs coaching equally, if not more, than the guy that hasn't achieved it. And case in point, I didn't make the 2014 games because I had decided to sort of go it alone, not with the coaching aspect of things, but with the collaborative approach to developing new equipment. I didn't want to. I'd worked on it diligently by myself, alone, and then when it became time that other people saw value in it and wanted to get on board, I was like, no, thanks. I'm quite all right on my own here, and I don't want to disseminate all this information that I've gleaned from the sweat of my brow just for nothing. I don't want to hand you the silver bullet, the golden carrot, whatever it is. And I desperately should have been working collaboratively with individuals on that equipment development process. And hindsight's always 2020. I maybe should have been focusing on the runners underneath the sled instead of the actual sled itself. But I should have been working on whatever it was that I was doing collaboratively, collectively, pooling resources and working with other individual, because we could have made shorter work of all the beta testing that I had to do alone with volume, with more individuals being able to test equipment. And I think we would have made bigger inroads, and I wouldn't have been left behind. I would have been the beneficiary of that collective learning experience. But as it is, I am only here with a lesson today. And what I will take away from it is the next opportunity that I have to work with a group, I will not say no.
As they say, stronger together, I guess.
Yeah, you want to go fast, go alone. You want to go far, team up.
Team up. Yeah, we were saying that the other day with hockey is, the individuals can help you win a game, but the team is what helps you win the championship.
Yep. You'll always score more goals 2-on-0 than you will 1-on-1.
Right. Host of the Amazing Race, you get to travel. I'm gonna switch gears just here but stay with this theme of competition. You do get to travel to some absolutely amazing places in this country of ours. Personally, and I know I've shared this with you before, but I've traveled coast to coast on my Harley. I've done the east coast of St. John's, Newfoundland. I've done as far as Dawson City, Yukon on the bike, and we're talking not shipping it, not doing anything, like literally riding it, and literally getting to experience the scenery, the sights, the clouds, the smells, the temperatures. This is the most amazing country in the world. And I mean, the Rocky Mountains being at least by far my most breathtaking moments. And I know you're right around the corner from those things on a regular basis. So I kind of envy that, but Cabot Trail not far behind for me as well.
I was thinking that when you were saying the Rocky Mountains, I was thinking, I wonder about the Cabot Trail.
Yeah, man. Cabot Trail was absolutely, I've done them both, and there's still so much more to do. It's with Joshua being 9 years old as of the other day, Leah, who's about to turn 7, the time that it takes, it's, we're talking 3-week journeys to sort of get away. And because they're a little bit older now and how involved I am in their sports, it's tough to take that time away. Whereas when they were younger, as yours, like, 1 and 3, they're not realizing, I guess, the downtime so much from dad, right? But is there one place that stands out to you, that one that you're just always excited to get back to?
Any place that feels home. And so,
which is cool about Canada. It all kind of...
It is. And home is where you make it. I'll only ever be from one place. I'm only ever going to be able to be from Russell, Manitoba. And so any opportunity I get to get back to Russell, to the Assiniboine Valley, right next to Russell, to my buddy's farm, is so powerful because of the connective tissue that you have to the place. But the new places that you find along the way and discovering your next home, where you're going to raise your family. Now that I'm on the West Coast, we treasure our little patch of rainforest out near Shirley, which is just north of Souk, right by Jordan River and French Beach. It's one of the surf spots here in Canada. Forest bathing, breathing the highly oxygenated air. Nowadays, being away from people because you have to self-isolate, and that's important. So we can still have this little bit of freedom being outside. It's my heart aches for the people that are in a condo somewhere that don't have the capacity to get out into the grass and have some connection with Mother Nature, something tangible in today's climate. So we're treasuring that. The drive that I like the most, and if you haven't done it, you need to get your motorcycle out to Highway 97 from Banff to Jasper. That is,
I've done it a few times.
Right.
Is that the one we call the Icefields Parkway?
That's right,
buddy. I came down. I did
epic.
that. I went up it, and I've come down it. And I remember when we came down it from, as we sort of, now meandering down from Dawson City and sort of coming back down and through BC. Yes. And we went over to Prince Rupert for lunch one day. Like, it was just, why not? Waterfalls on the highways. And but I remember coming back, and as we went through the Icefields Parkway coming south, I was literally in jeans and a t-shirt on my Harley. I've got pictures of this, and don't ask how I took the photos while I was doing all this, but you can see the ice caps. You can see the Rockies, the mountains with with the glaciers right there. And I'm in a t-shirt and jeans on my bike. I've still got these photos. Like, I look at them on a regular basis in awe of that area.
Yeah, it's bananas.
It's unbelievable. I remember, like, literally screaming at the top of my lungs as I'm riding down the road. No, you're on a bike. Yeah, I'm like, this is crazy. It's just absolutely awesome.
But with two hands on your bike, of course.
100%, yes.
North of Hope, BC, there is this little craggy area, and it used to be the highway. So you get on the Coquihalla. That's not it. I guess it's maybe 1A, perhaps. And it's
I've done that out to Banff from Calgary, though. I haven't gone further.
It is like the Swiss Alps in there. You are on such a tight little craggy road, like sheer cliff on either side of you. And it reminds me of being in the Swiss Alps in terms of the road construction and just the sheer magnitude of the rocks on sort of both sides of it. I'll never forget that trip. You get out to a place like Grossmorn National Park in Newfoundland, where the only place on planet Earth that you can see the mantle pushing up through the crust is in Grossmorn National Park. And they don't have trees on that topography because, well, nothing grows on the mantle, ladies and gentlemen. And the NASA will do Mars lunar lander type projects up there because it is the landscape on Earth that most closely resembles the moon or Mars. And it's just this otherworldly place. And it's here in Canada. You know, there's places that I haven't been to yet, but when we went up to Iqaluit in the north, that place stuck out so vividly in my mind's eye because it was different than I expected. You know, I'd read Farley Mowat's Lost in the Barrens growing up, or had them read to me at school, and I pictured it as just sort of a vast wasteland of nothingness. And when I got there, it was anything but. It has topography. Beautiful. And the hills and stuff that you're going to see in the distance, they're a lot further than you anticipate because there's no trees by which to gauge things accordingly in terms of spatial awareness. But at Iqaluit, there was something connecting me at a spiritual level up there. And maybe it was the late sun in the day that's not normal elsewhere, but it was a feeling that is hard to describe. And being that I'm on the island here now in Victoria, we love to, do a little bit of exploring around here, and every opportunity that we get to explore a new area of this island, just like anywhere else in Canada, we're always treated to beautiful people and amazing landscape and scenery, and the stories that go along with it from those that came here before us, in terms of pioneers, the sodbusters, to those that were here before time memoriam. And our Indigenous stories across the country fascinate me, and chatting with, when I'm lucky enough to do so, Indigenous elders that share stories with you, oral traditions, and that type of experience and exchange of culture and conversation is the type of stuff that I will get out of bed every morning to do more of. And when my life is injected with those type of experiences, I'm always richer, better off, and better for it.
You could literally get me going on a tangent with stories. And I mean, I'm sure you could match them or beat them when it comes to traveling this country and the people we've met and the scenery we've seen. It's out of this world. I mean, people ask me, I've suggested to people, instead of leaving this country to go on vacation, just take a road trip. You
Yep.
have no idea how beautiful. And Gross Morin is still on the bucket list because I passed right by it. We were on a ride, big group ride to conquer cancer. We had to meet people in St. John's, Newfoundland, and start heading back west. So we were on time limit. I got to do Cabot Trail, but I did not get to do Gaspé and Quebec yet. I did not get to do Gross Morin just yet. So there's a lot still to be seen. But as you once mentioned to me that you get, or you try, or you're supposed to, or you have to try each one of the competitions of the Amazing Race Canada before the actual contestants do them. So, I mean, again, I preface this one by saying you used to slide down ice at 145 kilometers an hour head first. But what was the craziest comp that you did that you thought to yourself, there's no way, in a normal world, I would even ever go near something like this?
The one that gave me the most cause for pause was jumping off the Macau Tower in Macau and doing a bungee jump from 752 or 62 feet high. The shipping, the oil tankers in the waterway there, they looked like, toys in a bathtub. You were so stinking high. And I was at the Canoe restaurant or something in Toronto before we left, and fancy restaurant downtown Toronto on the 52nd floor. And I looked out the window being like, okay, I'm ostensibly 520 feet off the ground right now. And then I had to picture what being up another 200 feet would look like and having to jump from that precipice. And it didn't even compute in my mind. So I lost a little bit of sleep over that one. It was fun. I really enjoyed it.
You said bungee jump or just jump?
Bungee jump.
Like, I'd rather skydive than bungee jump. There's something I got
too.
in me. I think I said that to you before. I there's something about that one, man.
Yep. And that's a tough one. The individual that was with E-Talk at the time, he was on the precipice and couldn't pull the trigger.
Couldn't do it, eh?
He just couldn't overcome. And I don't blame him a bit. I had to be a little bit more daft. I was expected to go.
Yeah.
He was given the choice. I always get the choice too. I shouldn't ever say that I don't.
Yeah.
But
would you do it again?
I don't know. I mean, it's been there, done that kind of.
Yeah. It's all good. I've done it. I don't have to do it again.
I really enjoyed it, and I enjoy scaring the bejesus out of myself. But one of the other ones that I thought would be unachievable, because it was going to be tasking individuals with doing something that's a bit more coordinated. Jumping is just finding the intestinal fortitude to go. And that's tough to overcome, but it's not taxing physically. But there was one in Osoyoos, I think, that we had to
beautiful area.
Wakeboard. We had to wakeboard, and wakeboarding comes with a whole new set of skills, but it was wakeboarding and doing a jump. And it was something that I was like, with that, people are going to die.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about that. You could break a few things there.
People are going to need to draw upon a whole lot of physicalness and capacity if they haven't ever wakeboarded. Like, you can't just wakeboard. It's not something that you just wake up and go do if you haven't ever skateboarded or done anything in that realm. So that in of itself was going to be hard. And then they had to go and do a jump. And some of them did get a little bit hurt, but I honestly thought that would be unachievable. And we've had a couple challenges where I thought, folks aren't going to be able to do this. And it wasn't stuff that I necessarily struggled with, but I just know the complexity of some of the coordinated physical tasks that's almost unachievable for some people. And it's proven to be difficult, but I wasn't scared. I quite enjoyed the wakeboarding and doing the jump, but I thought that would be tough. And the skydive, or the bungee jump in Macau was kind of terrifying leading up to it.
But people achieved it.
Everybody did it. Everybody.
And this was the thing. Yeah. Like, I got to tell you, I've gotten hooked on the show. I mean, it looks like a total blast. Jennifer and I, we talk about it. We're like, maybe we should do this, right? But it also looks like it can be incredibly grueling for the competitors, not just, let's say, from that mental thing of, oh my God, I'm about to jump off this thing, or I have never wakeboarded before. I mean, you're traveling from place to place. You're dealing with uncontrollable outside factors in many cases, very hard at times, having to deal with frustrations amongst each other. This could be your partner, a loved one, a friend, essentially a teammate, no matter how you want to slice that one. You've got to deal with other people's personalities.
Yep.
So, I mean, preparation for something like this is absolutely imperative, right? What kind of things are competitors, and again, we're thinking about the audience that's tuning in right now, but what kind of things are competitors doing to prepare themselves for these types of things, for any of that stuff? And then what types of, I guess, tips might they even be given by, let's say, the show, or maybe from you? What should people be doing every day to kind of get themselves prepared for this type of thing? Does that make sense?
People watch previous seasons to figure out sort of gameplay, agenda, things to be aware of, the types of decision-making pitfalls that folks can fall into, but there's really no physical preparation. You can't go and do 1,000 squats and be ready to go. But there would be an element of training that might go into it for running with a backpack. I guess volume, dealing with the volume that you're going to be encountering over the next 30 days. But attitude will be the one thing that you can work on to develop. Attitude with talking collaboratively, working out problems, having a default when you get stressed to go to, a plan to deal with stress, a plan to deal with fallouts from miscommunications, because they're all going to happen. But if you aren't trying to think your way through it for the very first time, when it's actually happening, then you have a much better chance to deal with it, to hug it out, and to move on with a concerted effort. And attitude will shape your ability to deal with the setbacks, with the difficulties, and with the challenges that we're presenting you with. We're trying to elicit human responses from these individuals, from crying, laughter, breakdowns, sheer terror. All these things is what has been baked into the challenges themselves. And so that's what's expected of you. And your ability to overcome that is going to stem from communication, controlling your attitude, and from not taking things personally from other teams, and from how your teammate is reacting to something that is a pretty heavy stimulus. So those, I think, would be the areas in which an individual would want to focus on to try and cope, to try and do well at the amazing race.
And I think that goes right in line with anything in life, right? I mean, it's exactly what you said. And I was just, pardon me, I'm marking those things down there, but communication, the attitude, and don't take it personal when something outside is happening. Just stay focused on what you're doing. Because I got to imagine there's a lot of, again, in that scenario, and we know that this is real life when this happens, but there's a lot of people that are working so hard to achieve and still not coming out on top, right?
Yep.
Those words of encouragement, I mean, I think you've just shared them, but it's that, it's how do we keep those spirits high? How do we keep enjoying the ride? How do we keep working towards that goal of winning?
Well, that stems, I think, from those people whom you're collaborating with. When you're looking for inspiration, you can seek it out anywhere. You can listen to a podcast. But the people that we work with side by side every day, you have to identify energy vampires from energy contributors. And if you're dealing with a vampire, you need to extricate them from your life, because you can only control so much. But you can control who is bringing energy into your world. And somebody that is constantly negative, somebody who's always seems to be just at the end of their tether with the world at large, isn't anybody that's going to imbibe you with the sense of confidence that you can achieve. And if it's looking for lifestyle changes in your life, surround yourself with people that are going to the gym, that have a morning routine, that are doing what it is that you want to do, and that you can control. And that will bleed into the attitude that you're able to hold more often than not for yourself, and give yourself the space to have that blue moment, to have that visceral reaction and response, but with the internal dialogue and with the asking yourself these critical questions, you're able to shape what is happening to you into reality, into what's actually real, into what does this mean for me? Is my goal now dead in the water because I didn't have this last success that I was hoping for? No, you'll need to rejig. You'll be able to have another opportunity to be successful in a second attempt, a third attempt. You'll be able to meet people, individuals that will be able to help further your agenda. And through asking questions, through constantly trying to tinker and improve upon last week, yesterday, an hour ago, you're going to be able to make headway. You're going to be able to make the kinds of changes that will allow you to move forward with purpose as opposed to caving in and shutting down.
I could just keep this going all day. I'm sorry, I'm enjoying it, but I will ask you just when does the next season start of Amazing Race Canada?
No one knows.
Nobody knows at this point in time, eh?
But expect it. The client wants it, needs it. The producers and company that gets it done, well, they want to get it done for everybody. And so Canadians will see an installment of season 8 of The Amazing Race Canada, but maybe just not at that regular scheduled viewing time of July the 2nd or 3rd, when
just based on where we're at right now.
Yep.
And if people
fall program for y'all.
And if people want to get get maybe that intrigue, that interest to get themselves possibly on the show, I guess they just go to the website for that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. There are back seasons available on Crave. And if you have the desire to experience Canada, learn what it is that you're made of, and ultimately change yourself. Nobody has ever run The Amazing Race Canada and come out the other end unchanged.
Right.
You can't help but improve when you challenge yourself, and man, we'll challenge you.
As we sign off, have you got any last tips? And you have shared a wealth of information today. Have you got any last tips that you want to share with everybody just about how to compete, no matter who the competition is or what they're doing? What should anybody who's listening now, what should they do right now when they finish this episode?
Take a shower. Think about it.
Sign of the times we're in.
Wash all the crap off you that I've said, and let sink in one or two nuggets that you can remember, that you can draw upon, and remember that stuff. And when we're competing, really, we're only ever competing against ourselves, and you have to use other people as measuring sticks and guideposts and route markers, but you're not competing against them. They aren't your competition. It's your own attitude, and that's ultimately what will shape your sense of success, your sense of belonging, and your sense of accomplishment. And when we're competing, we're only ever competing against ourselves. Nobody else can do it for us, and nobody else is going to give two hoots whether we give up and pack up and go home or not. It's all about you, the individual, and if you want it, go get it. Nobody's standing in your way but you.
Yes. John, I am absolutely honored to have had you on the show as my guest today. You have, once again, you have motivated me. I know all of our listeners as well. And quite frankly, just to get out there and keep winning and keep pushing to win no matter what. So I thank you so much, my man. I really, really thank you. And I look forward to seeing you again shortly.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me on, brother.
Thanks, man.
You're either listening to this on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or Spotify. Or maybe you downloaded our free Industry Syndicate podcast app. Or maybe you went to my website, mindshare101.com. And while you're on my site, make sure to download your free copy of the 7 Ways to Communicate ebook to help you build more mindshare so you can get more market share. And sign up for personal one-to-one mindshare coaching so you can achieve everything you want in life. Wherever you like to consume your content, please rate, review, and subscribe. And if you haven't yet, connect with me on Facebook at Mindshare101 and on Instagram at DavidGreenspan101. This has been another episode of the Mindshare Podcast. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in.